Hey everyone, today we're walking through something big, something permanent, something that changes the whole retirement landscape, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025, or the OBBBA. This isn't just another temporary tweak or patch, it's a wave that locks in many changes that were about to expire. So what you plan now will matter long term, as long as things stick around, right? And we all know that Congress could make changes too down the road. But for right now, there were a lot of things that were about to expire, but now they've been made permanent. So here's what we'll cover. One, what the OBBBA Act made permanent versus what remains temporary. How the permanence changes retirement planning. 3, Social Security timing implications under the new state tax law. Roth conversions, how permanence shifts strategy. And then number 5, key action steps for you. So grab your mental hiking boots. We're going into territory that'll set the trail for the rest of your retirement journey. All right. First, what do we mean when we say the One Big Beautiful Bill makes things permanent? So what's permanent versus what's temporary? Well, many tax cuts from the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, TCJA, were set to expire at the end of 2025. Under old law, rates, brackets, deductions would have reverted upward. Standard deduction would shrink. It would have reverted back to the 2016 or 2017, technically, tax rates. But now they've been made permanent. The One Big Beautiful Bill locks in many of those TCJA features permanently. That means lower marginal tax rates are here not just for a few more years, but going forward, unless, again, future legislation changes them. The standard deduction levels get made permanent at the higher TCJA levels. So the big deduction you've been using doesn't go away. Also permanent, higher gift and estate tax exemption amounts. But not everything is permanent. Some things in the bill are temporary or have phase-in caps or phase-outs or expire in future years. For example, the extra deduction for seniors age 65 plus of up to $6,000 is effective from only 2025 through 2028. So that one is temporary. Some deductions for tips and overtime income are temporary. They expire in 2028 as well, in some cases. The SALT tax or state and local tax deduction cap increases are temporary or have limits tied to your income or other things. So bottom line, the framework has shifted where before you were planning around the tax law possibly getting worse when the 2017 tax cuts were about to expire, now you can assume more stability, that those lower rates, deduction levels, etc., are going to stick around, which is huge for planning. Number 2, the retirement planning impacts. So what does that permanence mean for retirement planning? Well, now we can be a little bit more predictable on our tax. Before you had a tax cliff, for example, in 2025, they were supposed to end. Everything reverts back to how they used to be. So people were trying to hurry up and make Roth conversions or move things around before taxes increase again. Now, since many elements are locked in, you can plan with more certainty about what your tax rates will look like in your retirement years. Again, barring any legislation changes. The standard deduction is also staying high. With a permanent higher standard deduction, more people will find that they don't itemize or won't continue to itemize. For many, this means fewer headaches with itemized deductions, but also fewer opportunities for deductions that were used to be itemized. If you were counting on itemizing in retirement, you'll want to run projections to see whether or not if you'll still have enough to be itemized or whether or not you'll mostly use that standard deduction. The other thing that has been a little bit more permanent is the gift and estate tax exemptions. Because the gift and estate tax exemptions are higher and permanent under this bill, that changes how you might structure wealth transfers. You might be more aggressive earlier rather than trying to push to use up those exemptions before they drop. If inflation or future law doesn't pull them back, the high exemptions give you breathing room for estate planning. There's also some temporary perks, so don't forget some of the new additions. Senior deduction, overtime tip deduction. They're not permanent, so you might plan to take advantage of them while they last. If you retire towards the end of the temporary window, you'll want to be aware of what changes when and the temporary changes that are going to sunset. Now, when it comes to Social Security and your withdrawal timing, obviously that can change a little bit now because we have a greater deduction. Do you want to take advantage of that or not? So Social Security plan always interacts with your taxes. Now that many tax law components are permanent, your Social Security strategy might shift a bit. Because tax rates, deductions, and brackets are more certain, you likely have more ability to forecast when your taxable income will rise, when your required minimum distributions will begin, etc. If you delay Social Security, you know that the tax regime surrounding your later years is less likely to flip unexpectedly. That means delaying can be more confidently beneficial, potentially, because you're not planning for the maybe higher taxes then. Also, when your taxable income, whether your taxable income from retirement accounts, requirement distributions, other income, would push you into higher tax brackets combined with fixed lower rates, could change the breakdown between taxes and taking Social Security earlier versus later. It also affects decisions like whether to take part of your retirement income earlier or delay, because now you're less worried about the tax cliff of the 2026 or 2027, what that could hit temporarily because the benefits expire. So now we don't have to worry about that as much. All right, so let's get into the fun stuff, which is the Roth conversions. Now, a lot of us are trying to figure out when's the best time to move your money tax efficiently, and one of the best ways of doing that is doing Roth conversions. And Roth conversions are probably going to be a little bit more advantageous now that there's a more permanent tax policy. So this is where things get interesting. Roth conversions are powerful when you believe future tax rates will be the same or higher or uncertain. If the current tax law had been allowed to expire, future rates and deductions might worsen. So doing Roth conversions before that happens could have been urgent. Under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, with many favorable tax rules now permanent, the urgency doesn't completely go away, but in some respects, it softens. You don't have the ticking time bomb as much of everything reverting back to how things were in 2017 at the end of 2025. But temporary parts still matter. Those extra deductions, for example, like the tips for overtime or the elder deductions, still might disappear. If you can do conversions during years when you have lower taxable income, especially while those temporary benefits are in effect, it can still be a smart idea. Also, because standard deduction stays high permanently, conversion amounts that push you into a higher tax brackets might have different effects. The size of the deduction, what your income can be minus deductions, will be predictable, which means you can plan Roth conversions and how much you want to convert more precisely. Now, here's some key action steps you can make or look at. What should you do now? And now that we're in this more permanent tax regime, what do we want to look at? So first of all, best thing you should do is run updated projections. Before we were planning on the TCJA to sunset. Now it's been more permanent, so now we need to model that out. Model your income, your deductions, your brackets for the next 5 to 10 years, assuming the permanent changes plus temporary ones that will sunset. Then look at the temporary perks while you can. If you'll benefit from the senior deduction or tips or overtime deduction or other temporary features, plan to use them before they expire. Then review your withdrawal strategy. Think through when to take those distributions from your IRAs or 401ks, 403s, your pre-tax dollars in light of the permanent tax bracket or the lower tax brackets and deductions that we have. And then now we have a bigger window to make Roth conversions. Identify years with especially low taxable income. That way you can convert more money in a reasonable tax bracket that you're comfortable with, which might make sense for you. So monitor your tax bracket thresholds versus projected income deductions in the future. And then we also have some nice estate planning or gift planning. Use the permanent elevated exemptions. Part of your plan is to leave some of your money behind. Then we want to stay flexible because at all times, if legislation decides they want to change all this, all of a sudden we have to do some more planning again. Because even permanent laws can be changed in future Congress. But right now, you have more stable ground for planning. So in summary, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act isn't just more tax law. It's permanence in many of the TCJA's biggest features. That means you can plan with more certainty about your tax rates, available deductions, and estate gift tax thresholds. But some goodies are still temporary, so don't delay if you benefit from them. If you want, I can send you a personalized version of this, what your taxes might look like under the One Big Beautiful Bill and where the sweet spots are for Roth conversions or your Social Security timing. Just make sure to go to our website and reach out to us, and we'll make sure to set some time up. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.